Hey everybody, like I said, there were so many questions, so let's jump into the next 4. And the first question is, hey Katie, is it ever okay to not want to socialize? I have pondered this at length. I've never really been one to feel comfortable at social events or even to go to someone's house for a holiday dinner, even though some people I know casually have invited me because they thought that I shouldn't be alone on a holiday. But I would feel more like a stranger than a guest, so I decline, and I have no regrets at just staying at home, probably because I just don't want anyone feeling sorry for me anyway. I have never connected well with people. It's as if I'm on a different wavelength, and it's easy to misunderstand what is said or implied or to be misunderstood. I don't care much for physical contact and don't feel a need for intimacy or sharing feelings. Having friends, close or casual, just seems on balance to be too much work. I have no family. I've learned very early to be self-reliant and independent. I like my alone time in the house that I worked so hard to own, and I'm fine going to the theater by myself. So maybe it's not ideal, but what am I missing by not being social if I don't feel like I'm missing anything? This is a great question, and I had to think about it for a while because this is something that technically as a clinician I could diagnose. I could say, hey, this could be part of the autism spectrum disorder, because a lot of people who have ASD talk about not feeling able to connect or people being misunderstood and things like that and feeling like you're on a different wavelength. Also, people with ADHD say the same thing. And so we could try to put this in a bubble and diagnose it and say that it's all these issues, right? Even avoidant personality disorder could be one of those things too, right? People who don't feel like they're missing out on anything. They don't really want to connect. But I have to say, just after reading through your whole comment and thinking about it, I think it's okay. And the only reason I would say it wouldn't be okay is if you've ever felt alone, if you ever felt worse because you didn't have support or you didn't have people around you. That would be all. Because if you're fine and you don't feel like you're missing anything and you feel truly happy, then there's nothing that I would want more for you. If you're feeling good, you own a home, you have a great job that you love, I don't think it's bad. But if you find it making your mental health worse, where you feel really isolated and you feel kind of depressed and sometimes you would like to socialize. I mean, it doesn't sound like that's the case, but those are the little things that I would look for. Then I would encourage you to challenge it. But if you're happy and healthy as is, I just don't see anything wrong with it. And I don't always feel the need to overdiagnose. There's so many diagnoses out there. It's not necessary for us to always put people in boxes. You might just be happier being alone. Question number 2. I was abused by my stepdad from ages 4 to 14, and sometimes I experienced arousal during the abuse. At 10, I experienced my first orgasm. He did it. And ever since then, I've dealt with tons of shame, even to this day at 31 years old. And I felt a huge betrayal from my body. I've never heard anyone talk about this, if it's a thing or if I'm just the oddball. Is there a reason why this happened? I talked about this in my sexual health series. I'll link it in the description. So if you want to watch, I think there's like 3 or 4 videos that I created. But it's very common. It's very common that we become aroused during abuse because that actually one has nothing to do with the other. And I know that sounds crazy, but it's like a bodily response. It would be essentially akin to you being mad that you had to pee when you had to pee. And you peed. Because your body just had to do it. You couldn't hold it any longer. It has to do certain things. Or sneezing. We could compare it to sneezing. It happens. And I know that that sounds really crazy, but that is just a bodily response. And that's why a lot of people feel like their body betrayed them. Because in essence, it's doing what it's like created to do, but it's not in the right scenario, and therefore we have a lot of shame and guilt and all sorts of other things. And know that it's very normal, but it's okay. And I would talk about it. The more we talk about this, the more we realize that we're not alone. I've heard from a lot of other Kenyans out there that they've had the same experience. And that's why I talked about it in that video. But just think about it like a sneeze. It wasn't anything you control. It didn't mean that you wanted it. It didn't mean that it was okay with you. It was still abuse, and it still was terrible and unwarranted and not okay, and he should go to jail. Like, that's still what happened. But your body acted like a body does. And unfortunately, we can't disconnect the two. So process it through. I'd encourage you to talk about it in therapy so that you can heal from the embarrassment and shame that you felt as a result, because the feelings are still there and they're valid. But what your body did is just a bodily response. It has no correlation with enjoyment or asking for it, anything like that. It's completely separate, just like a sneeze. And the third question is, Katie, do you have any advice on transitioning from following a meal plan to eating more instinctively? Right now, I'm following a meal plan on the exchange system. So I eat a certain number of protein, fat, dairy, starch, and fruit exchanges at each meal. I've done that before, like not myself, but I've worked in clinics where we've done exchange programs. I'm not a big fan of them, by the way. I've just started actually following my meal plan, so I know I'm nowhere near ready to come off of it yet. But how do people make that transition back to eating normally after 10 years of an eating disorder and then time spent on the exchange system? Any thoughts would be great. First of all, it's one step at a time. My patients usually have a meal plan. I don't do the exchange because a lot of my clients still calculate and I don't like that. That's why I said I'm not a huge fan. We just have a meal plan. You follow the meal plan. You go see your dietitian every week or two and you change it up to make it better for you. And then we start doing like free lunches where you try to eat what you think you should eat and we check in. We see how it went. And we slowly transition out of being so regimented and meal plan focused. This takes time. That's why you said, how do people just do it? It's not just a cut and dried black and white. I'm on a meal plan, I'm off a meal plan. We slowly shift. Then we might have our meal plan, and then you're asked to go out and have a cookie and coffee with someone because it's therapeutic. Because that's life and that's what you would do. You're asked to eat everything still on your meal plan, but you add in something or you change something around. We work on that step by step, little by little. And I love the intuitive eating workbook. If you haven't checked it out, I'll link it in the description. It's a great workbook to do with your therapist and then work on your own as you transition out. But another tip and my last little thought about this is start trying to connect more with your body. Connect from your mind to your body. I know it sounds silly, but we often with eating disorders disconnect. And our mind tells us what to do, no matter what our body says. So check in with hunger fullness cues. Check in with your emotion level and see how it affects your hunger fullness cues. All of those are the little steps that we take along the way, moving away from a meal plan and into intuitive eating. And the fourth and final question for this video is, hey Katie, my question is to do with chronic pain and mental health. I have different types of chronic pain, and one I've had for my whole life and one I've had for the past 5 years. Part of my latest chronic pain could be partial somatization due to repressing the fact that I was raped when I was 10. I didn't tell anyone for 12 years. And somatization, just so you know, is like how our body responds to psychological struggles, okay? This is supposed to be helped through processing the trauma, but I don't understand how it can help the pain get any better. I'm in therapy and have been for a number of years. My therapist and I have been working through this, but I don't understand how the pain gets fixed. Would love to hear your thoughts. It's crazy, but it can. And the way that I'm going to explain this to you is, do any of you know when you feel kind of depressed or just having a down day, you also feel really tired? You can even feel achy. It can be hard to get out of bed. Everything is so much work. We've all been there, right? If you didn't know that it was because you felt kind of down and depressed, if you were completely disconnected, you would think you were sick. You would think, oh, I'm fighting a cold. Damn it, gotta go to the doctor maybe. Ugh. But it's truly our depression or just a bad mental health day, right? That's why this is the same. Trauma, there's a great book, The Body Keeps the Score. People have talked about a lot, but body memories are a real thing. I have a video about that. I'll link in the description. You can check it out because the way that our brain processes stuff, if we're not able to process it, it can kind of store it in our cells and in our body, and we can experience pain as a result. That's why people, when they talk about, I think it's Peter Levine is the guy that started somatic experiencing, this type of therapy that Alexa does. He found that when people talk about like being choked or something as a traumatic experience, the handprints would actually show up on their neck, even though they hadn't touched themselves. So it's like our body does keep the score. There is cellular memory. And a lot of people dispute it and don't believe in it, but I personally believe in it. And that's why processing through that rape and trauma that happened to you when you were 10 years old will help all of that pain that you're still experiencing go away. And I know it seems like it doesn't connect, but trust me, it does. I hope you found those answers helpful. Thank you so much for your support each and every month. There are 3 more questions coming your way in the next video, so I will see you over there. Bye.